Monday Night Football was, again, a disaster for the Bears and for Caleb Williams. And that's like what, 6 or 7 straight losses for them. Like they're really in free fall. I mean, they're going to be picking in the top 5 or 6 picks in the draft again. And a lot of that blame has fallen on Caleb Williams. And of course, it is, interesting from a Patriots standpoint, see how bad this Patriots team is, and then thinking, well, actually, you might like their situation better at quarterback than the Bears, who picked, another one of these generational quarterbacks that we get every other year or so, which takes away from the term generational. But Caleb was one of those guys you would tank 2 years for, which the Bears didn't have to do, but he was like Trevor Lawrence was one of those guys. Andrew Luck was one of those guys that you would take like a season or 2 off to go and get this guy at number 1 in the draft, looking way ahead at it. And so far, it's been a disappointment. And I saw this tweet yesterday that got me really fired up because, again, it's been fun to compare Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, but when you look at the stats, they're not all that different. Now, Caleb has had 4 more games than Drake Maye, but I think what the embarrassing part is the fact that the Bears, out of those top 3 pickers in the draft, were the most ready to win now. Like I thought they did a good job in the offseason and the year before building a team that was like a quarterback away. And you looked at this roster with the veterans they had at receiver, another top 10 pick at receiver. The defense looked pretty solid. You had some questions at head coach, which have obviously been answered negatively. They fired him a couple of weeks ago. But you looked at that roster and you said, this could be a playoff team with a rookie quarterback. In fact, I'd venture as far to say is it's not that much different from the team Mac Jones had with the Patriots in 2021. Veteran receivers that they brought in free agency, a good defense, a solid enough running game that's turned out to be very poor. And it just hasn't gone right. But that absolutely looks like a team that could sneak into the playoffs, especially when Jordan Love gets hurt week 1 in the NFC North. And then it's like, this is the Bears' time. You didn't expect Minnesota to be this good. They are. You did expect Detroit to be pretty good. And Jordan Love came back pretty quickly, and the Packers are the Packers. And there again lie the Bears in the bottom of the barrel in the NFC North and one of the bottom teams in the NFC. But back to this tweet yesterday that got me pretty fired up because, again, looking at the stats, you have to take it into context with the Drake Maye, Caleb Williams comparison, even the Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams comparison. But I would have said at the beginning of the season that the Bears had a better chance to go to the playoffs than the Commanders did. And yet the Commanders are knocking on the door and the Bears are looking at who they're going to pick in the top 5. This tweet said, Caleb Williams by no means is as good as I thought. I thought he'd be right away, but he has the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. Don't let name value fool you. Rome Odunze is his best weapon, and he's been a bust so far. The worst wide receiver room in the NFL. My brother in Christ, he doesn't even have the worst wide receiver room of the top 3 picks in the draft, let alone the whole NFL. Like, you kidding me? Every week, almost every day, I'm bitching about how bad the Patriots wide receivers are. And I won't let name brands like fool me here. I won't let name value fool me. I know it's not been a good season for Keenan Allen. I know Cole Kmet has struggled to get open, but those guys are still better receivers in the NFL than Kayshon Boutte and Kendrick Bourne and Pop Douglas. They're better pass catchers than those guys. I know they are. I don't need just the name value there. Like, that's ridiculous. I know Keenan Allen's had some drop issues this year, but you look at a receiving core of those guys, plus a DJ Moore as a weapon, plus a Rome Odunze, who is not had a great season. He's sure as shit been better than Jalen Polk. So miss me with that. bro. Like he doesn't have the worst wide receiver room of rookie quarterbacks, let alone the NFL. Drake Maye is going out there with the worst offensive line in football, and he's getting sacked way less than Caleb Williams is. Now, before looking at the stats in the head-to-head, I also find this very interesting. When you look at the list of the rookie quarterbacks who were sacked the most times in their rookie year in NFL history, Caleb Williams, with 3 games left, is third on the list. Third. Now, all these other guys played 16 games, to be fair. But with only 14 under his belt, he's third on the list. And I want to run you through this top 10 and see how many of them you would say would go on to be stars. David Carr, number 1. Bryce Young, number 2. Still some time with Bryce Young, of course. Caleb, 3. Tim Couch, 4. Blake Bortles, 5. Jake Plummer, 6th. Dieter Brock, 7th. Kyler Murray, 8th. Tony Banks, 9th. And Rick Mirer, number 10. How many stars do you see in that group? Kyler Murray had a nice day. You know, I don't know that you would consider him an elite quarterback in the NFL anymore. He had a good couple of seasons. Only one of those guys has even made it to a conference championship game as a starter, and it's Blake Bortles. So, like, we are way off from, like, being a stud quarterback. In fact, you got to go back to 11 to get to a guy who was a real quarterback, and that's Warren Moon, who's obviously a Hall of Famer. But even after that, Andrew Walter, Josh Rosen, Zach Wilson, Geno Smith, and then you hit Jim Kelly. So of the top 15, you've got one all-pro quarterback in there. One. It's not a good barometer if you are a Bears fan to say, oh, this guy's going to go on to some success here. And look, the Bears' offensive line is not good. But again, the Patriots, with another rookie quarterback, have like literally the worst offensive line I've ever seen at this level. Like, they can't get a hand on guys on run plays. It's incredible. They're the worst offensive line in the National Football League. And still, Caleb Williams is getting sacked way more than Drake Maye. Now, again, you do have to put this into context. Caleb Williams has played 14 games. Drake Maye has played 10. And so by the counting stats and some percentage stats, for example, Drake Maye has a much higher completion percentage, over 7% higher. But all the counting stats are going to go Caleb Williams' way. Passing yards, although not by that much, over a guy who's played 4 less games. Passing touchdowns, lower interceptions, better touchdown to pick ratio, more rush attempts, more rushing yards. So the counting stats are there, but when you look at them, it's not that much different. You know, he's 800 yards ahead of Drake Maye with 4 games. Drake Maye can get 200 yards a game, put it out to 14 games. He's got that evened out. His rush yards, he's only got like 50 more than Drake Maye in 4 games. And the sack numbers, to me, is, again, what's most damning, because when you watch these two guys play, that's where you notice the difference. And we saw them head-to-head this year. It was not a great Drake Maye day. It was good. It was solid. It was just not great. Caleb Williams did not have a good day, and he got sacked 9 times. That's the number that always sticks out to me. And you saw it again on Monday night. He's just kind of running around. Like, he thinks he can outrun everyone in this league. It's not the Pac-12, man. Like, these are professionals. And I see that every game I'm watching. I'm like, he is not the athlete he thinks he is against these guys. He's a terrific athlete, but you can't win on that in the NFL. And I mean, just whether it's his guys not getting open or him not going through progressions or what, he's just running around all the time. He's not 1, 2, 3, let it be. He's just running around and he's making sacks for himself. And we saw that a bunch in that New England game. And on Monday night, he goes into a game against Minnesota. Minnesota, damn good team. But Going into that game, they were the worst passing defense in the NFL. Worst passing defense in the entire league. And what does Caleb do against him? 18 to 31, a touchdown, no picks. Did fumble one. That was kind of it. He didn't do much there. His yards per attempt was only 6 yards. So 18 for 31 for 191 and a touchdown. He didn't even throw for 200 yards against the worst passing defense in the league. Like, there's an issue here. There's plenty of issues with the Bears and Chicago sports in general, I guess. There's plenty of issues with the Bears, but this is not a situation of, oh, nothing's wrong with Caleb. It's just everything around him, which is what I am saying about Drake Maye and the Patriots. I really am. And maybe you could say it's, some sort of confidence thing that comes with playing with a team like this. But again, like, let's not erase history here. The Bears were ready to win and contend for a playoff spot this year with a rookie quarterback. And they have failed that miserably. Miserably. Everyone else around Caleb and Caleb. Because I'm just comparing him to Drake Maye, but you want to compare him to the guy that was picked one spot behind him in Jayden Daniels? It's not even close. 4-10 versus 9-5. Daniels is still completing 70% of his passes. He hasn't had a terrific last month here, and he's still completing 70% of his passes. He's got more passing yards, more yards per attempt, more yards per game. Same amount of touchdowns with one more pick. Oh, boo-hoo. His rating is 15 points higher. He's got over 200 more rushing yards and, of course, a lot more rushing touchdowns. He's led his team. I don't think that Washington roster was as good as Chicago's. No way. I wouldn't have taken that roster. That's why, again, I had a friend who is a Bears fan who asked me before the season, a casual Bears fan, I'll say. I mean, he follows, but he's like, finally, the Bears have got it together, especially with this kid at quarterback. This is going to be a good year. What do you think they're going to do? And I said, well, I think they can go 500. He's like, 500, that's it? Yeah. I mean, it is a rookie quarterback. It is the Bears. It is Matt Eberflus, after all, or was Matt Eberflus, after all. And that still looks like a good division. Again, the door looked like it opened for them a little bit in week 1, and they didn't take advantage of it. It's a mess, and I'm fascinated to see where the Bears go with this. I imagine they'll take a long, hard look at the OC for the Lions, obviously Ben Johnson, but there will be rumors about Cliff Kingsbury, OC for who's going to be the rookie of the year, and Jayden Daniels was a consultant at USC when Caleb Williams was there. If I'm Cliff, I don't know that I'm leaving Jayden Daniels for Caleb Williams. I personally wouldn't, but you watch the games and you watch these teams play and look beyond the stats, you'll be like, yeah, Drake Maye is better. Drake Maye has a better command of what's going on this offense. And he has a much worse 10 guys around him than Caleb Williams does, even though it's been a very down season for that Bears offense. Just the personnel is better in Chicago than it is with New England. And I've got Bears fans on the timeline being like, well, he doesn't have anyone to play with. Seriously, man? Drake Maye is throwing to Kayshon Boutte and Austin Hooper and a cornerback, Marcus Jones and Kendrick Bourne, and you have the balls to complain about your personnel not fitting a rookie quarterback? Give me a break, man. It's pretty easy to tell when you watch these games. Drake Maye is a better quarterback right now than Caleb Williams, which, again, that in and of itself is stunning when you go back to the draft. Caleb Williams was a plug-and-play guy, the savior of this franchise, the one who was finally going to take them to Super Bowls and win Super Bowls, be their first, 4,000-yard passer, which I don't think they've ever had. They're the only team in the league that has never had it. And it was going to be legendary stuff. And 2 versus 3, Daniels and Drake Maye, that was going to be interesting to see who else became a star. But Caleb Williams, like Trevor Lawrence and all those quarterbacks take behind him, it was like, this is the nailed on guy. And Drake Maye, by contrast, was the project. Hopefully, Josh Allen, right? Hopefully, in 2 to 3 years, he has progressed and hit all those milestones, and he becomes a good NFL quarterback. He's become a good NFL quarterback in 10 games. Is he great? Not yet. Is he rookie of the year? Nope. But he's become a pretty good quarterback in 10 games with this roster and this coaching staff. I'll give Caleb the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't have a good coaching staff. But if you watch these games, it's not even close. Man, it's not even close. It's Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye, and then everyone else when it comes to rookie quarterbacks. Whew.
We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. And if you like this video, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. You can follow me on Twitter here for some more outrageous Boston sports takes coming to you every weekday at noon Eastern time. And then after that, wherever you get your podcasts.
We are Rogue Media Sports.